What happens when a daytime talk show takes a turn so sharp that security has to be called? What happens when America's most beloved pop star, turned host, finds herself at the center of a royal meltdown, so intense it leaves the entire studio in stunned silence? Today, we're unpacking the jaw-dropping showdown between Prince Harry and Kelly Clarkson, a segment that started as a routine interview and devolved into on-air chaos, gasps from the crowd, and panic behind the scenes. This is the untold story of how a warm-hearted promotional chat turned into a televised standoff no one saw coming. Don't forget to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think really set him off? The Kelly Clarkson Show had never seen anything like this. Kelly, known for her sincerity, warmth, and unshakable poise, had built a reputation as the safe haven of daytime TV, a place where celebrities could breathe easy. Her interviews rarely courted controversy. They built connection. So when Prince Harry's team reached out about promoting his latest Veterans Initiative, the producers expected a wholesome, feel-good segment. No surprises, no landmines. The morning of the taping, everything seemed textbook. Prince Harry arrived with his usual security entourage, smiling, composed, exchanging kind greetings with the crew. Kelly, fresh from makeup and final prep, was genuinely excited. She'd carefully crafted questions about Harry's nonprofit work, his passion for mental health, and his new life stateside. Nothing controversial, nothing risky. "I think our audience is really going to love this," she said to her producer, mic check underway. "He's always been open and real. I just want to highlight the good he's doing." And for the first 10 minutes, that's exactly what happened. Harry spoke passionately about PTSD in veterans, about the mothers rebuilding their lives after service, about dignity, healing, purpose. Kelly asked thoughtful follow-ups, clearly informed. The audience was hooked. This was the kind of inspiring, heartfelt content the show was known for. Then came the shift. Kelly, careful in tone but curious as ever, said gently, "I hope you don't mind. And please feel free to skip this if it's too personal. But there's been a lot of talk about your family in the UK. I think a lot of people admire how you forged your own path. How do you find that balance between building this new life and holding on to those family connections that shaped you?" The change was instant. Prince Harry's posture stiffened. His smile vanished. "I thought we were here to talk about veterans," he said, his voice measured but cold. "Not to rehash the same tired headlines that tabloids can't seem to let go of." Kelly, always the professional, smiled gently. "Of course. And the work you're doing is incredible. I just thought, since you've been so open in the past, it might be something our viewers could relate to. They admire your honesty. My authenticity." Harry snapped, his voice sharp now. "Is that what we're calling it? Look, I came on this show to highlight real issues. To talk about the people we're helping, not to feed the machine that's spent decades tearing my family apart." A gasps from the audience. The control room fell into chaos. Kelly's producer turned pale, whispering into the headset, "What is happening?" A still. Kelly held her ground, visibly rattled but calm. "Harry, I hear you. Let's get back to the incredible stories you mentioned earlier." But Harry wasn't done. "Do you really hear me? Because from where I'm sitting, every single effort I make, every interview, every initiative, is somehow twisted into palace drama. I'm here for purpose, for impact, not for another headline." The room fell to a hush. The tension was visceral, thick enough to choke on. Kelly's hands tightened around her cue cards. Her eyes didn't flinch, but the softness was gone. "I understand," she said, voice steady. "And I think what you're doing is powerful. You've turned pain into purpose, and that's something people connect with. That's something we need." Prince Harry leaned forward. His voice dropped. "You want to know what's inspiring, Kelly? It's not me. It's the vet who walked through our doors last week after 3 years of silence. It's the single mom who finally found someone to listen. That's what I care about. That's why I'm here. Kelly nodded, attempting to steer the moment back into safety. Tell us more about that veteran. What was that like for you? But the damage was done. The rhythm had collapsed. The warmth was gone. What was supposed to be a light, uplifting appearance had cracked under the pressure of unspoken resentment and public trauma. The producer scrambled to cut to commercial. Security hovered just off stage, and backstage. Phones lit up. Damage control began before the taping even ended. This wasn't just an awkward moment. It was a televised unraveling of royal restraint. And it left the world asking, did Kelly cross a line? Or did Harry finally show us the toll of life in the spotlight? Prince Harry's frustration wasn't fading. It was boiling over. His voice low, controlled, but clearly pushing toward a breaking point. You know what, Kelly? He said, leaning forward. There's something we need to talk about. This whole industry, this entire setup of promotional tours and talk show appearances, it's not about conversation. It's about extraction. You want the tears, the trauma, the click-worthy sound bite. But what if I've got nothing left to give? Kelly's polished demeanor cracked, barely, a subtle flicker in her eyes. A pause before she replied. Harry, I think you might be misunderstanding what we're trying to do here. This is about honoring your work, sharing your message with people who actually want to support it. But Harry wasn't buying it. His voice was rising, the royal charm replaced by raw anger. Is it about ratings? About headlines? About giving people something juicy to gossip about at the water cooler? In the control room, Kelly's producer was waving his arms frantically, but there was no containing it now. Kelly was on her own, live exposed, and facing a guest who had completely abandoned the script. She felt the weight of every gaze in the studio. Years of live television had trained her to improvise through anything. But this wasn't a tech failure or a wardrobe mishap. This was a full-on ideological rebellion in real time. Harry, she said, calm but firm, the tremor in her voice detectable only to those listening closely, will want the same thing. To shine a light on the work. To help people. That's what this platform is built for. Harry leaned back, arms crossed, staring at her with a piercing intensity that made even the cameras flinch. Do we, though? Because I've done this dance. I've played the part. I've sat in this exact chair, said all the right things, and still, when the footage airs, it's never about the work. It's about the drama. That's what gets clipped. That's what trends. Kelly's mask finally slipped, her voice sharpening with uncharacteristic steel. That's not fair. We featured hundreds of guests. Activists, doctors, authors, veterans, real people doing real work. And our audience does care. They care about you, too. Then why bring up my family? Harry shot back, louder now. If this is about veterans, if this is about mental health, then why the hell did we need to touch the royal drama at all? The room fell to a vacuumed silence. The good afternoon show had dissolved into something electric, dangerous, and entirely unscripted. Kelly took a breath, media instincts kicking in, but so did something deeper, conviction. Because, Harry, whether you want to admit it or not, your story matters. People relate to you, not just because of what you do, but because of what you've been through. The struggle, the choices, the pain. That's what gives your voice power. Harry's voice cracked, just slightly. Relatable. Kelly, you have no idea what you're talking about. My family isn't a metaphor. They're not content. They're real people, with real wounds, and this endless cycle of dissection and analysis. It's killing us. In the control room, the producer was screaming silently at the screen. In the studio, no one dared move. Phones were already filming. Whatever this was, it was no longer just an awkward moment. It was viral history being written. I get that, Kelly said, softer now. But Harry, you've talked about it. In your book, in interviews, in documentaries. I'm not prying into anything you haven't already shared. I'm just giving you a space to be heard. Harry stood up suddenly, his mic wire jerking tight. The audience gasped. That's exactly the problem, Kelly. Just because I've shared something doesn't mean it's public property. Just because I've spoken about my pain doesn't mean I owe it to every camera I sit in front of. Kelly rose too, her voice now sharp with the authority of someone who's hosted through storms before. Harry, sit down. We are live, and we can work through this like adults. Can we? He fired back. Because I'm exhausted by people telling me how I should feel, what I should share, and when I should be okay with bleeding for public approval. I'm tired of having my boundaries ignored because it makes for good TV. People in the audience shifted in their seats. Some nervously glanced around. Others lifted phones. The show had transformed, no longer a cozy talk show, but a confrontation between two public figures grappling for control of the narrative. Harry, please, Kelly said, her tone turning imploring. We're both here for the same reason, to help, to shine a light. Let's not lose that. Harry let out a hollow laugh. There was no humor in it. Together. You all love that word, together. Let's collaborate. Let's find common ground. But it's never really together, is it? It's always on someone else's terms. That's not true, Kelly snapped, her frustration breaking through. I've been nothing but respectful. I gave you a platform. I asked thoughtful questions. I've tried to create a safe space for you to speak. Your platform, Harry said sharply. Your show, your control. And the moment I say, I'm not comfortable, suddenly I'm the problem. The producer was now at the edge of the stage, signaling for a cut to commercial. But Kelly didn't move. Something in her had shifted too. You know what, Harry, she said, locking eyes with him. Maybe you are being difficult. The audience froze, a stunned silence. And in that silence, two public figures stood, not as interviewer and guest, but as two people fed up, fed bare, and done playing nice. And the cameras kept rolling. KLY, maybe you're just used to everyone saying yes. Maybe that's why a single honest question feels like an attack to you. The words dropped like a stone. The studio audience gasped. A collective inhale. No one dared breathe. Kelly blinked, almost startled by what she'd just said. But she didn't take it back. Parensia Harawai is quiet, dangerous, excuse me. Kello, I steadier now, you heard me. Maybe the problem isn't the media. Maybe it's you. Harry's face locked. For a long, pulsing second, he just stared, expression shifting, eyes narrowing, breath held. Then, his voice returned, barely above a whisper. Parensia, you think I'm the problem. KLY, I think you're so caught up playing the victim of the media machine that you can't tell when someone's actually trying to help you. You're so busy protecting yourself, you've forgotten how to have a genuine conversation. Parensi Arawai voice rising, you want genuine. Fine. I came here as a favor to your producers. I shifted my schedule. I prepared to talk about veteran suicide and PTSD recovery. I came ready to make an impact, and instead, I get ambushed with royal drama and then scolded for reacting when I try to steer it back. KLOI stepping closer. Nobody ambushed you, Harry. I asked one question. About balance. About family. That's not a tabloid attack, it's a human moment. Parenceroi cracking, nothing about my life is human. Nothing is normal. Every relationship, every private moment, gets dissected like a science project for public consumption. I'm not here to entertain curiosity. I'm here because veterans are dying, and no one's listening. The audience was paralyzed. The air in the studio buzzed with unspoken tension. Callowise tight, lipped fine. Let's talk about veterans. But don't you dare lecture me on what matters when you can't handle one question about your own life. Don't make me the villain because you're too fragile to handle a real conversation. Harry went pale, then red. His hands clenched. Prince-ROI, did you just call me fragile? Calloway if the shoe fits. The word echoed like a slap. Fragile, you could feel the shift in the room. Something cracked. Harry's face hardened. Not just anger, but something deeper, hurt. Prince-ROI's quiet. You think I'm fragile, Kelly? KLY, I think you're used to people walking on eggshells. I think you mistake kindness for weakness and boundaries for betrayal. Prancy voice rising again. You want real. Let's be real. You've built your brand on being relatable. America's sweetheart. The down-to-earth success story. But look at you now standing in your $1 million set, lecturing me about perspective. KLLY flashing, don't you dare. I've earned every inch of this stage. I've been honest with my audience about heartbreak, failure, insecurity. I didn't hide behind titles or security or a carefully managed press team. Parency RY stepping closer, you think I'm hiding. I've spoken more openly about my mental health than any public figure alive. Therapy, medication, trauma. I've shared things that cost me relationships, headlines, peace, and you're calling that fragile. KLY's meeting his energy. Yes, I am. Because someone strong doesn't melt down over one basic question. Someone strong doesn't implode when asked to be vulnerable. They don't lash out and call it protecting the cause. The studio was no longer watching a talk show. It was watching two public figures implode. Priancy RY's outraged, you call this a meltdown. I came to talk about real people, veterans who are dying, and instead, I'm defending myself like this is a royal courtroom. KLY's cold now. You're not defending yourself. You're attacking me, my show, and this entire platform just because you didn't get to control every second. Priancy SRY's icy. You're right about one thing. I don't respect this. I don't respect media dressed up as empathy. I don't respect hosts who pretend to care while angling for a viral moment. And I definitely don't respect an industry that turns pain into primetime. Callow, then why are you here, Harry? Why walk on this stage if you think we're all part of the problem? Priancy Harawais bitterly, because I thought this might be different. I hoped this one time someone would care more about the message than the noise. Kelawai laughing bitterly. And I hope this one time a guest wouldn't mistake every question for an attack. But here we are, me, defending myself on my own stage, and you storming through another spotlight you claim to hate. Silence. The room was electric. Neither of them moved. Neither of them blinked. The cameras caught everything, every breath, every flinch, every word that couldn't be taken back. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was a reckoning, and the fallout would be immediate. Kayla, you came in here with an agenda, and the second I didn't follow your script to the letter, you decided to burn the place down. Pirian C. Harawais incredulous, my script. Kelly, my script was about veteran suicide prevention. My script was mental health support, trauma recovery, real lives. Your script was drama, family gossip, personal revelations dressed up as balance. KELY, it was one question. One question about how you manage personal relationships while building a public life. And you turned it into World War III. Praira Harawai, voice rising. That one question is exactly the problem. It represents everything wrong with this industry. You can't just let the work speak for itself. It always has to come back to me, to my family, my past, my pain. You turn veterans into background noise for a soap opera I never agreed to star in. Kalawai stepping forward. Flushed with anger. You want to talk about what's wrong with this industry. It's guests who think they can show up and dictate the terms. It's celebrities who mistake basic questions for attacks. It's entitlement dressed up as boundaries. Piren si Harai loud, cutting through the silence and entitled. Kelly, I've given up everything. My title, my home, my family, to build something that matters. And now you're calling me entitled because I don't want to turn my trauma into content for your mid-morning ratings. Cold, precise, yes. I'm calling you entitled because you think you get to decide what's appropriate in a public interview. Because you think your cause is too noble to be touched by anything human. Because you think being admired means being untouchable. Harry ripped off his microphone and let it fall to the floor with a sharp crack. Paransi Hara, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with this conversation. I'm done with this show. And I'm done with people like you. People who pretend to care while prying open wounds for applause. KELY voice like ice. People like me. Careful, Harry. What exactly do you mean by that? Parian Harai bitter. Disgusted. I mean people who build their careers on pain that isn't theirs. Who wear compassion like a costume while chasing viral moments. Who think a platform gives them the right to dissect someone's soul under studio lights. Kelly's hands trembled slightly, but her stare was steady. Kale'll get out. Parian Harwisa blinking. What? Kalawai said get out of my studio, get off my show, and get the hell out of my space. She turned to the audience and the still, rolling cameras. Kalawai to crew, this interview is over. Security, please escort Mr. Windsor out of the building. Gasps rippled through the audience. 2 guards moved toward the stage. Parian Harai stunned. You're actually having me removed. Kalawai, you walked out the moment you threw your mic on the floor. This is just helping you find the door. Per NCRI, you're being ridiculous. Kalawai sharp. You've been disrespectful, disruptive, and flat out abusive to the people trying to give you a platform. This is my studio, my show, my rules. Harry looked around. At the audience now openly filming. At the cameras capturing every frame. At the woman who now stood unmoving, arms crossed, daring him to say more. Pransi Harawai's quietly, the fire gone. This is unbelievable. Kala, what's unbelievable is your behavior. What's unbelievable is that you came here expecting a pedestal, not a conversation. And what's truly unbelievable is that you still think you're the victim here. The security guard stopped short as Harry raised a hand. Princ Harawa, don't touch me. I'll leave on my own. He turned toward the exit, his security detail falling into step behind him. But just before reaching the door, he paused, turned back. Paran Saharwai, for what it's worth. Kelly, the veterans I work with. They're not fragile. They're the strongest people I've ever met. And all they ever wanted was someone to listen. Not someone to package their pain for applause. He walked off stage. The audience sat frozen. No applause, no whispers. Just a stunned, heavy silence. Kelly stood alone in the center of the stage, her chest rising with each breath, face set but unreadable. Anger, shame. Disbelief, maybe even a trace of regret. She turned to the camera. Her voice was calm, controlled. But it quivered just beneath. KLY will be right back after this break. The camera cut. But nothing would ever be the same again. So what do you think caused this interview to collapse? Was it Kelly's question? Harry's reaction? Or something deeper, more personal, simmering just beneath the surface? Comment below. Subscribe for more exclusive breakdowns. And stay tuned for the fallout no one saw coming.